The lion's breath was hot on my face. I'm not talking about a zoo lion. Not some National Geographic documentary. I'm talking about a wild Saharan lion, 450 pounds of muscle, teeth, and raw predator instinct, standing 2 feet away from me in the Sudanese desert. Its mane was thick, dusty gold, matted with blood from a recent kill. Its eyes locked onto mine. Amber. Unblinking. Hungry. I should have been its next meal. Instead, that lion saved my life. I know what you're thinking. This is impossible. Lions don't protect humans. This is some fairy tale. Listen, I thought the same thing. I'm a refugee. I've seen enough death to know what's real and what's fantasy. I've watched children starve in camps. I've seen men executed for owning a Bible. I've buried friends in mass graves with my bare hands. But what I'm about to tell you, I lived it. And so did 50 other witnesses. It was June 2023. The Janjaweed militia had just raided our refugee settlement outside Al Fashir in Darfur. You know what Janjaweed means? Devils on horseback. That's what we called them. Arab militias funded by the Sudanese government to wipe out African tribes. To wipe out us. They came at dawn. Always at dawn. The sound of hoofbeats on sand, AK-47 gunfire cracking the morning silence, women screaming as they grabbed children and ran. The smell, God, I'll never forget the smell, burning plastic from our tents, gunpowder, blood mixing with desert sand. I ran. What else could I do? 23 years old, barely alive after 2 years in that camp, surviving on UN rations and prayer. I ran north into the desert. Stupid, I know. The Sahara doesn't forgive mistakes. But behind me was certain death, a bullet to the skull or worse, capture. The Janjaweed don't kill quickly if you're Christian. So I ran. 3 days I walked. No food. No water. The sun cooked my skin. My lips cracked and bled. At night, the temperature dropped so fast my teeth chattered until I thought they'd shatter. I prayed every prayer I knew, the Muslim prayers from my childhood, desperate Christian prayers I'd learned in the camp. Jesus. Allah, someone. Help me. On the 3rd day, I collapsed. Face down in the sand. I couldn't feel my legs anymore. My tongue was swollen, stuck to the roof of my mouth. This was it. 23 years of survival, of running, of hiding, ending here. Alone. In the sand. Vultures already circling overhead. I heard the hoofbeats before I saw them. There. The Christian dog. I lifted my head. Through the heat waves, I saw them. For Janjaweed fighters on horses, kufiyas wrapped around their faces, rifles slung across their backs, swords at their hips. They'd tracked me. For 3 days, across the Sahara, they'd tracked me. One of them, the leader, I could tell by his decorated rifle, dismounted. He walked toward me slowly, confidently. Why rush? I couldn't run anymore. He pulled out his sword. The blade caught the sunlight, flashed like lightning. You thought you could run from us, he said in Arabic. You thought your God would save you? I closed my eyes. Jesus, I whispered. My voice was barely there, dry as the sand beneath me. Jesus, if you're real, if you died for me. I need you now. Please. I don't want to die like this. I heard the sword whistle as he raised it. And then. A roar. Not a human sound. Not gunfire. A roar. Deep. Primal. The kind of sound that vibrates in your chest cavity, that tells every cell in your body, predator. I opened my eyes. The lion stood between me and the militia fighter. Massive. Mane rising in the wind. Teeth bared. Muscles coiled, ready to spring. It had appeared from nowhere, or from everywhere, I don't know. 1 second, empty desert. The next, this creature from God's creation standing over me like a guardian. The militia fighter stumbled backward, nearly dropped his sword. What is? The lion roared again. Louder. The sound echoed across the dunes. The horses panicked, reared up. Two of the fighters fell off, scrambled backward in the sand. Shoot it, the leader screamed. One of them raised his rifle. I heard the shot crack across the desert. The lion didn't flinch. Didn't move. Just stood there, positioned between me and them, like a wall. A living, breathing, impossible wall. Commander, we need to go, one of the fighters shouted. This is shaitan magic. Devil magic. It's just an animal. Shoot again. But none of them did. I watched them back away, slowly, then faster, then scrambling onto their horses and galloping away into the desert, leaving dust clouds behind them. The lion watched them go. Then it turned to look at me. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. This was it, right? I just traded one death for another. Bullets or teeth, what's the difference? But the lion didn't attack. It lowered its head, I swear it bowed, and then lay down. Right beside me. In the sand. Close enough that I could see the old scars on its muzzle, close enough to feel the rise and fall of its breathing. And for the first time in 3 days, I felt safe. That lion stayed with me for 36 hours. Didn't leave. Didn't hunt. Just stayed. When I finally had strength to walk again, it walked beside me. When I reached the edge of the refugee camp, when I saw the UN tents, the people, safety, the lion stopped. It looked at me one last time. And I'm telling you, I saw something in those eyes. Intelligence. Purpose. Divine purpose. Then it turned and disappeared back into the wilderness. A UN aid worker saw the whole thing. Her name was Sarah, from Norway. She'd been in Sudan for 15 years. She ran up to me, eyes wide, hands shaking. I saw that lion with you, she said. I saw it. In 15 years of fieldwork in Africa, I have never seen a wild lion behave that way. That was not natural. No, I said, tears streaming down my face. It wasn't natural. It was supernatural. Because here's what I know now, when I prayed to Jesus in that desert, when I cried out his name with my last breath, he answered. Not with words. Not with visions. With a miracle. He sent one of his creatures, a lion, the same kind of lion that should have eaten me, and he commanded it to protect me. Just like he shut the mouths of lions for Daniel in the Bible. Except this wasn't the Bible. This was 2023. This was me. This was real. But let me take you back. Because this miracle didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened in a war zone. It happened after 2 years of hell. It happened after I'd lost everything, my family, my home, my faith. Let me tell you how I ended up in that desert, praying to a God I wasn't sure existed, about to be murdered by devils on horseback. Let me tell you about the war that killed my country. The persecution that hunted my people. And the moment I decided to cry out to Jesus, even though I was Muslim, even though it could cost me everything. Because I didn't know it yet, but I was about to witness a biblical miracle in the 21st century. The kind of miracle that would change my life forever. The kind of miracle that would make 50 witnesses fall to their knees. The kind of miracle that proves, beyond any doubt, that Jesus Christ is alive. And he's still moving. Still protecting. Still performing the impossible. His name was Commander Hamid al-Bashir. I'll never forget that name. It's burned into my memory like a brand. If you lived in Darfur between 2021 and 2023, you knew that name. You feared that name. He was the leader of a Janjaweed unit, about 200 fighters, responsible for wiping out entire villages. The UN had documented at least 40 massacres linked to his command. 40 villages. Thousands dead. And in March 2023, he set his sights on our refugee settlement. I need you to understand something about refugee camps in Sudan. They're not temporary. They're not safe. They're open-air prisons where the unwanted go to die slowly. Our settlement, we called it Al-Nur Camp, the light, housed about 3,000 people. Mostly Masalit tribe. Mostly Christian or Christian converts. All of us fleeing the same thing, ethnic cleansing. We lived in UNHCR tents, you know, those white tarpaulin shelters that turn into ovens during the day and freezers at night. We had one water pump for every 500 people. Food rations came twice a week if the UN trucks made it through militia checkpoints. Disease was everywhere: cholera, malaria, dysentery. I watched babies die from diarrhea because their mothers had no clean water. But we survived. We prayed. We sang hymns at night when the aid workers couldn't hear. We whispered the name of Jesus even though speaking it openly could get you killed. I'd been there for 2 years. 2 years since the Janjaweed burned my village, killed my father, and scattered my family into the wind. I was 21 when I arrived at Al-Nur. Alone. Traumatized. And still clinging to the Islam I'd been raised with, praying 5 times a day on a scrap of cardboard, facing Mecca, begging Allah to make sense of the senselessness. He never answered. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you about the day Commander Hamid decided we had to die. It was March 14, 2023. Mid-morning. The heat was already brutal, 110 degrees, maybe more. I was in the food distribution line with my yellow ration card, waiting for my weekly bag of sorghum and lentils. That's when I heard the trucks. Not UN trucks. Those made a specific sound, diesel engines, careful and slow. These were different. Faster. Aggressive. And there were a lot of them. Everyone inside. Now. One of the camp administrators, a Kenyan man named Joseph, started shouting, waving his arms. Get inside your tents. Don't come out. The truck stopped just outside the camp perimeter. I could see them through the fence, 6 Toyota pickups, the kind militants love. Heavy machine guns mounted in the beds. Janjaweed flags flying. And men. Lots of men. Armed. Watching us like hyenas watching wounded prey. From the lead truck, he emerged. Commander Hamid al-Bashir. He was tall, maybe 6 feet 2 inches, with a thick beard dyed with henna, traditional jalabiya robes, and a belt loaded with ammunition. But it was his eyes that terrified me. Cold. Empty. Like looking into a well with no bottom. I'd seen evil before. But this man? He embodied it. He walked up to the camp gate where Joseph stood with 2 other aid workers, both unarmed, both terrified but trying not to show it. This camp harbors enemies of Sudan, Commander Hamid announced in Arabic. His voice was calm. Matter of fact. Like he was discussing the weather. Enemies of Islam. Apostates and blasphemers who spread the poison of Christianity. Joseph stepped forward, hands raised. Sir, this is a UN-protected refugee settlement. These people are civilians. Women, children, elderly. They are kafir. Commander Hamid spat the word. Infidels. And their presence here is an insult to Allah. Please, Joseph said. I could hear his voice shaking from 50 feet away. We're under international protection. If you attack this camp, there will be consequences. Commander Hamid laughed. Actually laughed. Consequences? The UN does nothing. The world does nothing. You think your blue helmets scare me? I've burned 40 villages. The UN wrote reports. That's all they did. He pulled out a folded piece of paper from his robe. A list. I couldn't see what was written on it, but I saw Joseph's face go white as he read it. These names, Commander Hamid said. These are the Christian leaders in this camp. The ones who hold secret church services. The ones who convert our Muslim brothers and sisters to their false religion. You will hand them over to me. Now. I can't do that, Joseph whispered. Then in 3 days, I will return. And I will burn this entire camp to the ground. Every tent. Every person. You will die together with the Kafir you protect. He turned to leave, then stopped. Looked back. And smiled. 3 days, UN man. Tell your Christians to pray to their God. See if he saves them. The trucks drove away in a cloud of dust and exhaust fumes. I stood there, ration card still in my hand, heart hammering so hard I thought it would crack my ribs. 3 days. We had 3 days. That night, Joseph called an emergency meeting with the camp's unofficial Christian leaders. I wasn't a leader, I wasn't even officially Christian yet, but I went anyway. About 30 of us crammed into the medical tent after dark, whispering because the camp had informants. There were always informants. He wants 15 people, Joseph said, holding up the list. His hands trembled. 15 names. Pastors, evangelists, anyone caught leading worship or converting Muslims. So give him 15 names, someone said. An older man, practical, desperate. 15 lives for 3,000. That's the math. No. A woman stood up. Her name was Amira. She'd been a secret house church leader in Khartoum before fleeing. We don't hand believers over to be slaughtered. That's not who we are. Then what do we do? Joseph asked. I've called the UN headquarters in Khartoum. They said they'll monitor the situation. That's code for you're on your own. We pray, Amira said simply. Pray? The older man stood up, angry now. Prayer won't stop bullets. Prayer won't stop Commander Hamid. Prayer is all we have. Amira shot back. Or have you forgotten who we serve? Have you forgotten the God who parted the Red Sea? Who shut the mouths of lions? Who walked through fire with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Those are stories, he shouted. Bible stories. This is real life. I'll never forget what Amira said next. She walked up to him, put her hand on his shoulder, and said quietly, Brother, if our God is only real in the Bible, then we've already lost. But if he's alive, if he's the same yesterday, today, and forever, then he can still do miracles. Even here. Even now. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my tent, 8 of us shared it, sleeping on cardboard mats, and stared at the tarp ceiling. 3 days. Commander Hamid would return in 3 days. I thought about running. Just leaving. Heading north into the desert. Taking my chances with the Sahara instead of the Janjaweed. At least in the desert, death would be clean. Quick. Not torture. Not beheading. Not being burned alive, which was Commander Hamid's favorite method. But where would I go? I had no family left. No money. No papers. I was nobody. A refugee with nothing but the clothes on my back and a God I wasn't sure was listening. That's when I heard it. Singing. Soft. Careful. Coming from Amira's tent. Great is thy faithfulness, O God my Father. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. She was singing in English, a language most of the camp didn't understand, so it was safer. But I understood. I'd learned English from missionaries before the war. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. Tears ran down my face into the dirt. Because I wanted to believe that. I wanted to believe God's hand would provide. That he was faithful. That he cared about a nobody refugee in a forgotten camp in Darfur. But I'd been praying to Allah for 2 years. And I'd gotten nothing but silence. The next 2 days were hell. We all knew what was coming. People stopped eating, why waste food? Parents held their children tighter. The old ones made peace with death. And the Christians? They prayed. Constantly. In whispers. In tents. In the medical clinic. In the latrine trenches. I watched Amira gather a group of children and teach them a song. My God is so big, so strong, and so mighty, there's nothing my God cannot do. I wanted to scream at her. Stop giving them false hope. Stop pretending God will save us. But I didn't. Because deep down, I wanted her to be right. On the third day, I woke up before dawn. My hands were shaking. This was it. Today, Commander Hamid would return. Today, people would die. Maybe all of us. I walked to the edge of the camp and looked out at the desert. The sky was turning purple and orange. Beautiful. Cruel. Indifferent. Jesus, I whispered. I didn't know why I said his name instead of Allah's. Maybe because Allah had never answered. Maybe because I had nothing left to lose. Jesus, if you're real, if you care about us, we need a miracle. Not a small one. A big one. The kind that makes people know you're God. I didn't hear thunder. Didn't see lightning. Didn't feel anything supernatural. But something in my chest shifted. Like a door opening. Just a crack. At 10 a.m., the trucks returned. 6 Toyota pickups. Heavy machine guns. 50 armed fighters. And Commander Hamid, standing in the lead truck bed, holding a microphone connected to a loudspeaker. People of Al Noor camp, his voice boomed across the settlement. Your time is up. Bring me the 15 Christians on my list, or I burn this camp in 1 hour. Joseph walked out to meet him. Alone. Unarmed. Trembling but brave. We will not hand over innocent people to be murdered, he said. Commander Hamid smiled. Then you've chosen death. He turned to his fighters. Surround the camp. In 1 hour, we light it up. Every tent. Every person. Let their God try to stop us. That's when I knew I had to run. If I stayed, I'd burn with everyone else. And something in me, survival instinct, maybe, or cowardice, I don't know, said run. So I did. I slipped through the back of the camp, crawled under the fence, and ran north into the desert. Behind me, I heard shouting. Gunfire, warning shots. They'd seen me. Stop that one. The runner. I didn't stop. I ran harder. Into the Sahara. Into the heat. Into the unknown. And for 3 days, I walked. No food. No water. Just running from Commander Hamid. From death. From hell. Until I collapsed in the sand. Until I prayed to Jesus. Until the lion came. I need to go back further. Because you need to understand who I was before the lion. Before the desert. Before I ever whispered the name of Jesus. I need to tell you about the prayers that went unanswered. My name is Yusuf. That's the Arabic version of Joseph. My father named me after the prophet Yusuf, the one who was thrown into a well by his brothers, sold into slavery, but eventually became a ruler in Egypt. You will survive anything, my son, my father told me when I was young. Because Allah has a plan for you, just like He did for Yusuf. I believed him. I believed in Allah. I prayed 5 times a day from the time I was 7 years old. I fasted during Ramadan. I memorized portions of the Quran in Arabic even though it wasn't my first language. We spoke Masalit at home. I was a good Muslim. Devout. Faithful. And for 21 years, I thought that meant I was safe. That Allah would protect me. That if I just prayed hard enough, followed the rules closely enough, I'd be okay. I was wrong. It was January 2021 when the Janjaweed came to my village. We'd heard rumors for weeks villages to the south were being burned, people massacred. But we thought we were safe. We thought because our village, Mystery Eye, had both Muslims and Christians living together peacefully, they'd leave us alone. We were naive. They came at dawn. Always at dawn. I woke up to screaming and the smell of smoke. Our neighbor's hut was already on fire, thick black smoke pouring into the sky. I ran outside and saw them, men on horses, men on motorcycles, men in trucks with machine guns. The Janjaweed wore military uniforms mixed with traditional robes, faces covered with cloth, eyes visible, cold, dead eyes. "Everyone out! Line up in the square," one of them shouted. My father grabbed my arm. "Run, Yusuf! Run now! Baba, I can't leave you. Run!" He shoved me toward the back of our compound. "Hide in the wadi. Don't come back. No matter what you hear. Promise me." I ran. I'm not proud of it, but I ran. I was 21 years old and I ran like a child while my father stayed behind. I hid in the dry riverbed, the wadi, about half a kilometer from the village, behind rocks and scrub brush. And I watched. I watched them separate the men from the women. I watched them pull out a list, always names. I watched them call out Christians and make them step forward. Some went willingly, heads held high. Others were dragged. Then they called my father's name. Ibrahim Hassan al-Masalit. My father stepped forward. He was 52 years old. A farmer. A good man. He'd never hurt anyone in his entire life. "You've been harboring Christians," the commander said. Not Commander Hamid, this was a different one, but they all operated the same way. "Your son Yusuf has been seen attending Christian gatherings." "My son is Muslim," my father shouted. "We are Muslim." It was true. I had attended some Christian gatherings. There was a small underground church in our village, and I was curious. They sang beautiful songs. They talked about Jesus like he was alive, like he was their friend. It fascinated me. But I never converted. I never prayed to Jesus. I was just curious. But curiosity was enough. "Liar," the commander said. And he pulled out his pistol and shot my father in the head. Just like that. No trial. No mercy. Just a bullet. And my father crumpled to the ground like an empty sack. I bit my hand so hard I drew blood, trying not to scream. Trying not to give away my position. I watched my mother collapse, wailing. I watched them drag her and my two younger sisters away. I never saw them again. To this day, I don't know if they're alive or dead. Sold into slavery. Killed. Disappeared. The Janjaweed burned Mystery to the ground. Every hut. Every field. Every mosque. Even the mosque. Because we were Masalit, and that mattered more than being Muslim. This wasn't about religion, not really. This was about ethnicity. About Arab supremacy. About wiping out African tribes. They left at sunset. And I waited until midnight before I crawled out of that wadi. The village was ash. Bodies everywhere, men, women, children. The smell. I can't describe it. Burning flesh mixed with burning wood mixed with death. I found my father's body. His eyes were still open. I closed them. I wanted to bury him properly, wash his body according to Islamic tradition, face him toward Mecca. But I didn't have time. The Janjaweed would return at dawn to loot what was left. So I whispered the Shahada over his body, "There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger," and I ran. For 3 weeks, I walked. North toward Al-Fashir, where I'd heard there were refugee camps. I walked at night, hid during the day. I ate leaves, insects, whatever I could find. I drank from puddles and got dysentery so bad I thought I'd die. And I prayed. Oh, how I prayed. "Allah, please. I've served you my whole life. I've prayed every prayer. I've fasted. I've honored my parents. Why? Why did you let them kill my father? Why did you let them take my mother and sisters? What did we do to deserve this?" Silence. Nothing but silence. I reached Al Noor refugee camp in February 2021. They registered me, gave me a tent assignment, a ration card, and a lecture about sanitation. That was it. Welcome to your new life. For the next 2 years, I survived. That's all it was. Survival. I performed Salah 5 times a day in that refugee tent, kneeling on a piece of cardboard because I had no prayer mat. I fasted during Ramadan even though we barely had food anyway. I recited verses from the Quran that I'd memorized. And I felt nothing. Allah felt further away than the moon. Further than the stars. I'd pray and my words would hit the tent ceiling and fall back down like dead birds. The worst part? The Christians in the camp seemed happy. Not all the time, we were all traumatized, all grieving. But they had something I didn't. Peace. Hope. Joy, even in the middle of hell. I'd hear them singing at night. Praying out loud like they were talking to a friend. Comforting each other with words like God is with us and Jesus will provide and this suffering is temporary, but His love is eternal. I wanted to hate them for it. How dare they be hopeful when we were all dying slowly? How dare they worship a God who let His own followers suffer? But I couldn't hate them. Because they were the only ones who showed me kindness. When I got malaria in my 6th month at the camp, it was a Christian nurse named Ruth who sat with me for 3 days, giving me medicine she'd saved from the clinic, wiping my forehead with a wet cloth, praying over me in Masalit. "Why are you helping me?" I asked her. "I'm Muslim. Your Jesus wouldn't care about me." She smiled. "My Jesus died for you, Yusuf. He doesn't see Muslim or Christian. He sees a son He loves." I didn't understand that. How could Jesus love me? I'd never prayed to Him. Never followed Him. I'd been taught my whole life that Christians were misguided, that they'd corrupted the truth, that Jesus was just a prophet, not God. But Ruth's words stayed with me. He sees a son He loves. During my 2nd year at Al-Noor, I started sneaking into the Christian gatherings. They met in different tents, always quiet, always careful. The camp administration looked the other way, but we all knew informants reported to the Sudanese government. Being caught at a Christian service could get you killed. But I went anyway. Because I was desperate. Desperate to feel something. Desperate to find the peace they had. Desperate to find a God who actually answered. I'll never forget the first time I heard Amira preach. She was in her 50s, gray hair covered with a colorful wrap, voice soft but powerful. She spoke about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane the night before He was crucified. He was terrified, she said. The Bible tells us He sweat drops of blood. He prayed, "Father, if there's any other way, please take this cup from me. I don't want to die." He was scared. He felt abandoned. He felt alone. I leaned forward. This was different from what I'd been taught. I'd been taught prophets were always strong, always certain, always confident. But then, Amira continued, Jesus said something that changed everything. He said, "Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done." He surrendered. And the next day, He went to the cross. He didn't fight back. He didn't call down angels to save Him. He chose to suffer. He chose to die. For us. For you. Her eyes found mine across the tent. For you, Yusuf. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. How did she know my name? We'd never spoken. After the meeting, she came up to me. "You've been coming for 3 weeks," she said. "I see you. You're searching for something." "I don't know what I'm searching for," I admitted. Allah doesn't hear me anymore. Maybe He never did. "It's not Allah you're searching for," Amira said gently. "It's Jesus. He's been calling your name for a long time, Yusuf. The question is, will you answer?" I wanted to. God knows I wanted to. But I was terrified. If I accepted Jesus, I'd be an apostate. In Islam, apostasy is punishable by death. If anyone found out, if the wrong person in the camp reported me, I'd be killed. Not by the Janjaweed. By other refugees. By people who'd been my neighbors. I can't, I whispered. It's too dangerous. Amira nodded. Following Jesus is dangerous. He never promised safety. He promised presence. He said, I will never leave you or forsake you. Even in the fire. Even in the desert. Even in death. But what if I pray to him and he doesn't answer? What if he's just another silent God? She took my hands. Hers were rough, calloused from years of hard work. Yusuf, Jesus isn't silent. He's been answering you this whole time. Who do you think sent Ruth to care for you when you had malaria? Who do you think gave you the courage to walk 3 weeks through the desert after your village burned? Who do you think brought you here, to this camp, to this tent, on this night? That wasn't chance. That was Jesus. I went back to my tent that night and I lay awake until dawn. My tent mates were snoring, oblivious. And I prayed. But this time, I didn't pray to Allah. Jesus, I whispered. I don't know if you're real. I don't know if you care. But if you do, if you died for me like Amira says, I need to know. I need a sign. Something. Anything. Please. Nothing happened. No voice from heaven. No vision. No supernatural peace. Just silence. But a different kind of silence. Not the crushing, empty silence I'd felt praying to Allah. This was expectant. Like the silence before dawn. Like something was coming. I didn't know it yet, but that prayer, the desperate, confused, terrified prayer, had just set something in motion. Something that would lead to Commander Hamid's list. To the threat against our camp. To me running into the desert. To the lion. I fell asleep just before dawn. And I dreamed. I dreamed of a man in white robes standing in the middle of the desert, his arms open wide, a lion lying peacefully at his feet. When I woke up, I couldn't shake the image. 3 months later, Commander Hamid would arrive with his death list. 3 months later, I'd run into the Sahara. 3 months later, I'd collapse in the sand and pray the prayer that would change my life forever. Jesus, if you're real. I need you now. And he would answer. Not with words. With a miracle. The dream haunted me for weeks. Every night, the same image, Jesus standing in the desert, arms open, lion at his feet. I'd wake up with my heart pounding, sweat soaking through my thin blanket despite the cold desert night. I didn't tell anyone. How could I? Hey, I'm having dreams about Jesus? That was a death sentence in a refugee camp where half the population was still Muslim and informants were everywhere. But the dreams didn't stop. They got more vivid. In one dream, Jesus spoke. His voice was, I can't describe it. Like thunder and whisper at the same time. Like every language and no language. He said, Yusuf, I know your name. I knew it before you were born. Come to me. I woke up crying. Actually crying. 23 years old and I was sobbing in a tent full of sleeping refugees, trying to muffle the sound with my hands. The next morning, I went looking for Amira. I found her at the water pump, filling jerry cans for her tent. She was singing under her breath something in Arabic I didn't recognize. Amira, I said quietly, checking to make sure no one was close enough to hear. I need to talk to you. She looked at me and smiled. Like she'd been expecting me. The dreams started, didn't they? My mouth fell open. How did you? Because that's how Jesus works, Yusuf. When someone's heart is open, even just a crack, he comes in. Sometimes through people. Sometimes through circumstances. And sometimes through dreams. That's biblical, you know. He spoke to Joseph in dreams. He spoke to the wise men who visited baby Jesus in dreams. He's speaking to you. But I don't understand what he wants. I whispered urgently. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. He wants you to surrender, Amira said simply. To stop running. To stop hiding. To accept that he died for you, rose for you, and loves you more than you can possibly comprehend. But if I do that, if I accept Jesus, I'm an apostate. Do you know what that means? In Islam, apostasy is punishable by death. Yes, I know. Amira set down her jerry cans. Yusuf, do you think I don't know the cost? I was born Muslim. My father was an imam in Khartoum. When I accepted Jesus at age 25, my own family tried to kill me. My brother held a knife to my throat. My mother spat in my face. I lost everything. Then why? I asked desperately. Why would you choose Jesus if it costs that much? Because he's worth it. Her eyes were fierce now, blazing. Because every other god I tried to serve demanded I earn their love. But Jesus? He loved me first. While I was still a sinner, still lost, still broken, he died for me. That kind of love is worth any cost. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to. But fear is a powerful thing. What if I pray to him and nothing happens? I asked. What if I give up everything, my identity, my safety, maybe my life, and he's silent? Like Allah was silent? Amira took my hands, just like she had that night in the tent. Yusuf, Jesus is not Allah. He doesn't sit far away in heaven waiting for you to be good enough. He came down. He became human. He suffered. He died. He knows what you're going through. And he will never be silent when one of his children calls out to him. How do you know? Because I've tested him. Hundreds of times. And he's never failed me. Not once. That conversation planted something in me. Hope, maybe. Or faith. I don't know. But something shifted. For the next 2 weeks, I started reading the Bible. Amira had given me a torn, water-damaged copy, just the Gospel of John and some Psalms. I'd hide it under my sleeping mat and read it by flashlight at night when everyone else was asleep. And the words, they were alive. That's the only way I can describe it. When I read the Quran, it was beautiful but distant. Poetic but cold. But when I read about Jesus healing the sick, feeding the hungry, touching the lepers that everyone else avoided, I felt like he was in the tent with me. One passage destroyed me. Absolutely destroyed me. It was John 10 verse 10. Jesus said, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly." I read it over and over. I came that they may have life. Life. Not just survival. Not just existing day to day in a refugee camp, waiting to die. But life. Abundant. Full. Rich with meaning and purpose. I'd been surviving for 2 years. I hadn't been living. And suddenly I understood, that's what Jesus was offering me. Not a religion. Not a set of rules. Not a distant God who demanded perfection. But life. Real, full, overflowing life. Even in a refugee camp. Even in Darfur. Even in hell. It was March 10, 2023, 4 days before Commander Hamid would show up with his death list, when I finally broke. I'd gone to the edge of the camp after dark, away from the tents, away from people. I sat in the sand and looked up at the stars. The Sahara sky is overwhelming. You've never seen stars like that. Millions of them. Billions. The Milky Way stretched across the sky like a river of light. And I thought, God made all of this. Every star. Every planet. Every grain of sand under my feet. He spoke and the universe existed. And he knew my name. Yusuf. I started crying. I didn't plan to. It just happened. 2 years of grief and trauma and fear came pouring out. I cried for my father, shot in the head for nothing. I cried for my mother and sisters, disappeared. I cried for my village, burned to ash. I cried for the 3,000 refugees in El Nur camp, all of us waiting to die. And I cried because I was so tired. Tired of being afraid. Tired of being alone. Tired of praying to a God who never answered. Jesus, I whispered into the darkness. Jesus, I don't know how to do this. I don't know the right prayers. I don't know the right words. I don't even know if you can hear me. But Amira says you died for me. She says you love me. She says you're not silent. I took a shaky breath. I'm so tired, Jesus. I'm tired of running. I'm tired of surviving. I'm tired of being alone. If you're real, if you really died for me and rose again, then I'm yours. I don't care about the cost anymore. I don't care if it gets me killed. I need you. I need to know I'm not alone. Please. Please, Jesus. Save me. I waited. For thunder. For lightning. For a voice from heaven. For something dramatic. Nothing happened. The stars kept shining. The wind kept blowing. The camp behind me kept existing, tense and suffering in despair. But inside my chest, something broke open. Like a dam bursting. And peace, warm, golden, impossible peace, flooded through me. I can't explain it. I don't have words. But I knew with absolute certainty that I wasn't alone anymore. That someone was with me. Not just watching from heaven. But present. Right there. In the desert. In the darkness. Jesus. I sat there for an hour, maybe more, just breathing. Just feeling. For the first time in 2 years, I felt safe. Not physically safe, the camp was still surrounded by enemies, we were still starving, Commander Hamid was still out there. But spiritually safe. Like I'd come home after a long journey. When I finally stood up to go back to my tent, I felt different. Lighter. Like I'd been carrying a massive weight and someone had lifted it off my shoulders. I didn't know it yet, but that prayer, the desperate, broken, beautiful prayer, had just changed everything. Because 4 days later, Commander Hamid would arrive with his death list, and I'd have to choose, stay and burn with the camp, or run. And when I ran, when I collapsed in that desert 3 days later with the Janjaweed hunting me, when I whispered Jesus' name with my last breath, he would answer. Not with words. With a miracle. But I'm getting ahead of myself again. Let me tell you about those 4 days between my prayer and Commander Hamid's arrival. Because they were the most alive I'd felt in years. The next morning, I found Amira at the morning water distribution. I pulled her aside and whispered, I did it. Last night. I prayed. I accepted Jesus. Her face lit up like the sun. She grabbed me and hugged me right there in front of everyone, which was risky, and whispered in my ear, Welcome home, brother. Welcome to the family. What do I do now? I asked. Do I need to be baptized? Do I need to tell people? Eventually, yes. But for now, just walk with him. Talk to him. Read his word. Let him change you from the inside out. I feel different, I admitted. I don't know. Lighter? Stronger? That's the Holy Spirit, Amira said. He lives in you now. You're not alone anymore, Yusuf. You'll never be alone again. She was right. Over the next 4 days, I started noticing things I'd never noticed before. The way sunlight hit the tents in the morning. The sound of children laughing, even here, in this horrible place, children still found reasons to laugh. The kindness of strangers sharing their rations with someone who had less. It was like I'd been colorblind my whole life and suddenly I could see in full color. I also started praying differently. Not the ritualistic prayers I'd performed 5 times a day for 21 years. But conversations. Just talking to Jesus like he was right there with me. Jesus, I'm scared about the food running out. Can you help? Jesus, that little girl in tent 47 is sick. Please heal her. Jesus, thank you for this sunrise. It's beautiful. And the craziest thing? I felt like he answered. Not audibly. But in my spirit. In my circumstances. The little girl in tent 47 got better. A UN truck arrived with unexpected rations. Small things. But not random things. Answered things. I told one other person my secret, a young guy named Dud who shared my tent. He was Christian, had been his whole life. When I told him I'd accepted Jesus, he cried. Actually cried. Brother, do you know how rare this is? He said. Most Muslims in this camp are too afraid to even question Islam. But you had the courage to seek truth. That's a gift. I don't feel courageous, I admitted. I feel terrified. If anyone finds out, then we'll face it together, Dud said. You're not alone, Yusuf. Not anymore. On March 13th, the day before Commander Hamid arrived, I found a piece of paper in the camp trash. It was torn, dirty, but readable. It was a Bible page. Psalm 91. I smoothed it out and read. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God, in whom I trust. For he will deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with his pinions, and under his wings you will find refuge. You will not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day. For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. Angels. Protection. Deliverance from deadly pestilence. I tucked that paper into my pocket. I didn't know why. It just felt important. The next day, Commander Hamid arrived with his death list. And 3 days after that, I was in the desert, dying, with the Janjaweed hunting me. That's when I pulled out that torn piece of paper. That's when I read Psalm 91 one more time with sand in my mouth and death in my future. He will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. And that's when I prayed the prayer that would summon a miracle. Jesus, if you're real, if you died for me, I need you now. Please. I don't want to die like this. Send your angels. Send something. Please. And he did. He sent a lion. The desert sun was killing me. That's not poetic language. I mean it literally. After 3 days in the Sahara with no food and no water, my body was shutting down. I could feel it happening, system by system, like lights going out in a building. My lips had cracked open and bled so much that dried blood crusted around my mouth. My tongue was swollen, thick, stuck to the roof of my mouth like leather. I couldn't swallow. Couldn't speak. Could barely breathe. The air I sucked in through my nose was so hot it felt like inhaling fire. My skin had gone from brown to gray. I know because I looked at my hands, they didn't look like my hands anymore. The skin was loose, wrinkled, covered in sores from the sun. My eyes were so dry that blinking felt like sandpaper scraping my eyeballs. I'd stopped sweating on day 2. That's when I knew I was in real trouble. Your body stops sweating when it has no water left to give. That's the beginning of the end. And the hallucinations had started. On day 2, I saw my mother walking toward me across the sand, carrying a pitcher of water. Yusuf, Habib, come drink, she called. I ran toward her, or tried to, my legs barely worked, and she vanished like smoke. On day 3, I saw an oasis. Palm trees. Clear blue water. I crawled toward it for an hour. When I finally reached it, there was nothing. Just more sand. More heat. More death. I'd been praying the whole time. Not formal prayers. Just talking to Jesus. Begging him. Jesus, please. Water. Just a little water. Please. Jesus, I just accepted you 4 days ago. I don't want to die yet. Please. Jesus, I know you walked on water. You turned water into wine. You fed 5,000 people. Can you help one refugee? Please? But nothing changed. The desert stayed hot. My body kept dying. And the jonjuweed kept tracking me. I'd see their dust clouds in the distance. Sometimes close, sometimes far. But always there. Always hunting. Like vultures circling something dying. Why were they so obsessed with me? I was nobody. Just one refugee among thousands. But I'd escaped. And Commander Hamid didn't allow escapes. It was about power. About sending a message: no one runs from us and lives. So they tracked me into the Sahara. 4 fighters on horses. Probably enjoying the hunt. Probably making bets about how long I'd last. It was mid-afternoon on the 3rd day when I finally collapsed. My legs just stopped. One moment I was walking, shuffling, really, dragging my feet through the sand, and the next moment I was face down. My body had nothing left to give. I tried to push myself up. My arms trembled and gave out. I tried again. Same result. That's when I knew this was it. This was where I'd die. Face down in the Sahara, 23 years old, 4 days after accepting Jesus. Some salvation, a dark voice whispered in my mind. You prayed to Jesus and he let you die in the desert. At least with Allah, you knew he was distant. But Jesus? He promised to never leave you. And here you are. Alone. Dying. Abandoned. Tears leaked from my eyes, my body had no water for sweating but somehow still had tears. Jesus, I whispered into the sand. Jesus, are you there? Did I make a mistake? Did I get it wrong? Silence. Just the wind. Just the heat. Just the approaching sound of hoofbeats. They'd found me. I lifted my head, it took all my strength, and saw them through the heat waves. 4 riders on horses, keffiyehs wrapped around their faces, rifles across their backs, moving toward me at a steady pace. Not rushing. Why rush? I couldn't run. I could barely lift my head. I closed my eyes. Jesus, I whispered. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I doubted you. I'm sorry I'm so weak. But I'm about to die. And I'm scared. I'm so scared. Please, just stay with me. Don't let me die alone. Please. The hoofbeats got closer. Closer. Then stopped. I heard boots hit the sand. Footsteps walking toward me. Slow. Confident. Well, a voice said in Arabic. The Christian dog finally stopped running. I recognized the voice. It was one of Commander Hamid's senior fighters, a man named Rashid. I'd seen him at the camp, sitting in the truck bed with a heavy machine gun, smiling while Commander Hamid delivered his death threat. You've caused us a lot of trouble, Kafir, Rashid said. 3 days tracking you through the desert. Do you know how hot it is out here? How miserable. My men are exhausted. The horses are exhausted. All because of you. I didn't respond. Couldn't respond. My mouth wouldn't work. Commander Hamid wants to make an example of you, Rashid continued. I heard metal scraping, he was pulling out his sword. He said, bring me his head. I want to mount it on a spike outside Al Nur camp so everyone can see what happens when you run. He grabbed my hair and yanked my head up. Pain shot through my scalp. I opened my eyes and saw his face, the keffiyeh had slipped down. He was young. Maybe 30. Hard eyes. Dead eyes. Any last words, Christian? He asked. I tried to speak. My lips moved but no sound came out. My throat was too dry, too damaged. Rashid laughed. Nothing? No prayers to your God? No begging for mercy? He let go of my hair and my face hit the sand again. I heard him step back. Heard the whistle of the sword as he raised it, testing the weight, preparing for the strike. This was it. The moment. The end. And I prayed. One last time. Not with words, I had no words left. But with my heart. With everything I had left. Jesus. 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 I trust you. Even now. Even here. I trust you. If this is how I die, then I'm yours. Take me home. But please, please don't let it hurt too much. And please, let my death mean something. Let someone find my body and know that I died believing in you. Please, Jesus. Please. I heard the sword whistling down toward my neck. And then. A roar. Not human. Not mechanical. Animal. Deep. Primal. Powerful. The kind of sound that makes your bones vibrate. The kind of sound that tells every living thing within a mile, predator. Apex predator. The sword stopped. I didn't feel it cut me. It just stopped. What was that? Rashid's voice, suddenly nervous. Commander, I don't know. Another fighter's voice, panicked. Another roar. Louder. Closer. I lifted my head, it took everything I had, and I saw it. The lion. 50 feet away. Walking toward us. Slowly. Deliberately. Head low. Eyes locked on Rashid. It was massive. Male. Prime age. Its mane was thick and wild, dusty gold mixed with darker brown, moving in the wind like fire. Its muscles rippled under its fur with each step. Its paws, the size of dinner plates, left deep impressions in the sand. This was a king. A predator in its prime. Wild. Dangerous. Deadly. And it was walking straight toward us. Back up. Back up. Rashid shouted. I heard boots scrambling in the sand. Where did that come from? I don't know. It just appeared. Shoot it. Shoot it. Commander, the rifle's jammed. Then fix it. The lion kept coming. 20 feet now. Its eyes never left Rashid. They were amber-colored, like honey held up to sunlight. But there was nothing sweet about them. They were focused. Intent. Predatory. But strange. Because the lion wasn't looking at the Janjaweed fighters like prey. It was looking at them like threats. Like intruders in ITS territory. And then, and I swear on my life this happened, the lion stopped right in front of me. Right between me and Rashid. 10 feet from me. 5 feet from Rashid. And it turned its head. Looked down at me. Made eye contact. For 3 seconds, maybe less, maybe more, time felt strange. I looked into the eyes of a wild lion. And I knew. I can't explain how. I can't prove it. But I knew that this lion had been sent. That my prayer had been answered. That Jesus had commanded one of his creatures to protect me. The lion turned back to face Rashid and roared. The sound was deafening. I felt it in my chest, in my skull, in my bones. The horses screamed and reared. 2 of them threw their riders. The other 2 bolted, running back the way they'd come with their riders clinging on. Rashid stood frozen. Sword still raised. Face pale under his sun-darkened skin. The lion took a step forward. Then another. Advancing on Rashid. Slowly. Its tail lashing back and forth. Its teeth bared massive fangs, stained yellow, designed to crush bone and tear flesh. Stay back, Rashid whispered. Stay back. The lion took another step. And lunged. Not a full attack. A warning lunge. Get away from this human or I will kill you lunge. Rashid dropped his sword, turned, and ran. I watched him sprint across the sand, stumbling, falling, scrambling back up, running like death itself was chasing him. Maybe it was. The lion didn't chase. It watched him go. Then turned back to me. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. This apex predator, this wild, undomesticated, dangerous animal, was standing 5 feet away from me. Looking at me. Deciding what to do with me. I closed my eyes. Jesus, I whispered, barely a sound. Thank you. Thank you for sending help. If this lion kills me now, at least the Janjaweed didn't get me. At least I died free. Thank you. I waited for teeth. For claws. For pain. Instead, I felt warmth. I opened my eyes. The lion had laid down. Right beside me. Close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from its body. It rested its massive head on its paws. And watched the horizon. Guarding. I stared at it in absolute shock. Wild lions don't do this. They don't protect humans. They don't lie down beside dying refugees. They hunt. They kill. They eat. But this lion was different. Jesus, I whispered. Jesus, what is this? What's happening? The lion's ear twitched at my voice. It turned its head slightly, just enough to look at me with one amber eye. And then, I swear, it made a sound. Not a roar. Not a growl. A low, rumbling sound. Almost like a purr? Can lions purr? I don't know. But it sounded like reassurance. Like, I'm here. You're safe now. I started crying. Full, body-shaking sobs. Not from fear. From AWE. From gratitude. From overwhelming, impossible, supernatural relief. God had heard me. Jesus had heard me. And he'd sent a lion. An actual, literal, biblical, Daniel in the den lion to protect me. The sun started setting. The temperature dropped fast, it always does in the desert. My body started shivering. I was dying. I knew it. The lion had saved me from the Janjaweed, but dehydration was still killing me. Jesus, I whispered as darkness fell. I don't think I'm going to make it. But thank you. Thank you for this. Thank you for proving you're real. Thank you for not leaving me alone. The lion shifted closer. Its body pressed against mine. Warm. Like a furnace. Like a living blanket. And I fell asleep. Or passed out. I don't know which. But I didn't die. Because when I woke up the next morning, the lion was still there. Still guarding. Still protecting. Still obeying the voice of God. I woke up to the lion's heartbeat. That's the first thing I remember from that morning. Not the sun rising. Not the sand beneath me. But the steady, powerful thump-thump, thump-thump of the lion's heart beating against my back where its body pressed against mine. I was alive. I shouldn't have been. 4 days in the Sahara with no water, no food, body shutting down, organs failing. I should have died in my sleep. But I didn't. I opened my eyes slowly, they were crusted with sand and dry tears. The lion was still there. Still pressed against me. Its mane covered part of my face. It smelled like dust and wild animal and something else. Something I can't name. Something clean. Pure. I tried to move. My body screamed in protest, every muscle cramped, every joint stiff. I managed to shift slightly, and the lion lifted its head. Looked at me. Those amber eyes again. Calm. Watchful. You're still here, I whispered. My voice was barely there, scratchy and broken. You didn't leave. The lion blinked slowly. Then stood up, its muscles rippling, powerful, and stretched. Front legs extended, back arched, jaws opening in a massive yawn that showed every one of its deadly teeth. Then it did something impossible. It walked about 10 feet away, stopped, and looked back at me. Then took a few more steps. Stopped. Looked back again. It was waiting for me. Telling me to follow. I can't, I whispered. I can't walk. I'm dying. The lion walked back. Right up to me. And nudged my shoulder with its nose. Hard. Like pushing a soccer ball. Okay, I said. I don't know why I was talking to a lion. But it felt right. Natural. Like talking to someone who understood. I pushed myself up to my knees. It took 5 minutes. My arms shook so badly I thought they'd collapse. The world spun. Black spots danced across my vision. But I got to my knees. The lion made that rumbling sound again. Encouragement? Approval? I don't know. Then I got to my feet. Fell immediately. Tried again. Fell again. The third time, the lion moved closer. Right beside me. And I understood. I grabbed its mane. Just held on to it. Used it to pull myself up. The lion didn't move. Didn't flinch. Just stood there. Solid. Like a wall. Like a pillar. And I stood. Legs shaking. Vision blurring. But standing. The lion started walking. Slowly. Matching my pace, which was basically a shuffle. I kept one hand tangled in its mane. Using it for balance. For support. We walked like that for an hour. Maybe more. I have no sense of time from that day. Everything was survival. One step. Then another. Then another. The sun climbed higher. Got hotter. I was so thirsty I couldn't think straight. My brain felt like it was cooking inside my skull. Water, I whispered. Jesus, please. Water. Just a little. The lion stopped. Turned its head toward the north. Its nose lifted, sniffing the air. Then it changed direction. Started walking faster. Wait, I gasped. I can't go that fast. But the lion kept going. I stumbled after it, hand still gripped in its mane, legs moving on instinct more than strength. And then I saw it. A rock formation. Just a small outcropping of stones, maybe 20 feet high. Nothing special. But at the base, in the shadow, I saw something dark. Something wet. Water. A tiny spring. Seeping out from between the rocks. Collecting in a small pool no bigger than a dinner plate. I fell to my knees beside it. Cupped my hands and drank. The water was cold, impossibly cold for the Sahara. Clear. Clean. Pure. I drank until I thought I'd burst. Then I splashed water on my face, my neck, my arms. I cried and drank and cried some more. The lion drank too. Lapping at the pool with its massive tongue. And when we'd both had enough, it lay down in the shade and rested. I sat beside it, back against the rocks, trying to process what was happening. You led me to water, I said out loud. You knew it was here. The lion just watched me with those calm amber eyes. Lions don't do this, I continued. I was talking to myself more than the lion. Wild lions don't protect humans. Don't lead them to water. Don't let them hold on to their manes. This is impossible. But it wasn't impossible. Because it was happening. I reached out slowly, terrified but compelled, and touched the lion's mane. Just rested my hand on it. The fur was coarse. Thick. Warm from the sun. The lion didn't pull away. Didn't growl. It just accepted the touch. Jesus sent you, didn't he? I whispered. Just like he shut the mouths of lions for Daniel. He sent you to protect me. To save me. The lion closed its eyes. And I swear on everything I am, it looked like it was listening to something. Head tilted slightly. Ears forward. Like someone was speaking to it in a frequency I couldn't hear. We stayed at that water source for several hours. I drank. Rested. Prayed. The lion stayed close. Always close. Watching. Guarding. At one point, I heard engines in the distance. Vehicles. The Janjaweed, probably, still searching. The lion's head snapped up. Its body tensed. It stood and positioned itself between me and the direction of the sound. And roared. The roar echoed across the desert. A warning. A threat. Come closer and I will destroy you. The engine sounds changed direction. Moved away. Faded. The lion sat back down. Calm again. Like nothing had happened. You're my guardian, I said, tears streaming down my face. God sent me a guardian angel in the body of a lion. As the sun started setting, my fifth night in the desert, the lion stood and looked north. Then looked at me. Then started walking. We're moving again? I asked. It looked back. Waiting. I stood. Grabbed its mane. And we walked. All through the night, we walked. The lion moving slowly, patiently. Me shuffling beside it, hanging on. The stars above us were so bright I could see our shadows on the sand. I prayed as we walked. Jesus, I don't understand this. I don't understand how a wild lion is obeying you. But thank you. Thank you. I should be dead 3 times over. But you keep saving me. You keep protecting me. Why? Why do you love me this much? No audible answer. But in my spirit, deep in my chest, I felt something. Warmth. Peace. And words. Not heard with my ears but known in my soul. Because you are mine. You are my son. And I will never leave you or forsake you. I started sobbing. Still walking. Still holding the lion's mane. But sobbing. I don't deserve this, I whispered. I don't deserve you. And again, that knowing, no one does. That's why it's called grace. Dawn came. The 6th morning. And I saw something on the horizon. Tents. White tents. Dozens of them. A refugee camp. Is that? I couldn't finish the sentence. Was I hallucinating again? The lion picked up speed. Not running. But purposeful. Leading me directly toward the camp. As we got closer, maybe half a kilometer away, I saw people. Aid workers in their blue vests. Refugees moving between tents. A flag. The UN flag. We made it, I gasped. We actually made it. The lion stopped at the edge of the camp. Right at the perimeter. And looked at me. You're not coming in, are you? I said. The lion just stared. Those amber eyes. Calm. Knowing. I let go of its mane. Stood on my own, shaky but standing. Thank you, I said. I know you can't understand me. But thank you. Thank you for saving me. For leading me. For protecting me. The lion held my gaze for a long moment. Then, and I will remember this until the day I die, it lowered its head. Just slightly. Like a BOW. Like recognition. Like acknowledgement. Then it turned and walked back toward the desert. I watched it go. Watched until it disappeared over a sand dune. Gone as mysteriously as it had appeared. Wait. Stop. Don't move. I turned. A woman was running toward me, blonde hair, blue UN vest, radio in one hand. She stopped about 20 feet away, staring at me with wide eyes. Did I just see, was there a lion with you? She asked in English. Yes, I said. My voice was hoarse. Broken. A lion. For 3 days. It protected me. Led me here. She stared at me like I was insane. That's impossible. Wild lions they don't do that. I know, I said. And I smiled. But God does. Her name was Sarah. Norwegian. She'd been working with refugees in Sudan for 15 years. She took me to the medical tent, gave me water, started in 4, examined me. You should be dead, she said, checking my vital signs. 4 days, you said 4 days in the desert with no water? Almost 5, I said. That's medically impossible. The human body can't survive that long without water. Especially in the Sahara. Especially in this heat. I had water, I said. The lion led me to a spring. On the 3rd day. She shook her head. I've worked in this region for 15 years. I've never heard of a spring in that area. And even if there was one, you still should have died from the first 3 days of dehydration. I should have, I agreed. But Jesus kept me alive. She stopped what she was doing. Looked at me. You're serious. You really believe God sent a lion to protect you? I don't believe it, I said. I lived it. I know it. She sat down on the edge of the cot. I saw that lion with you. I watched you walk in together. I watched it bow its head before it left. I've never seen anything like that in my entire career. That was not natural. No, I said. It wasn't natural. It was supernatural. Word spread through the camp fast. The refugee who survived 5 days in the desert. The man who was protected by a lion. Within hours, people came to see me. To hear the story. To touch me like I was some kind of miracle. And I told them. Over and over. Not about me. About Jesus. I was Muslim, I said to a crowd of maybe 50 people gathered outside the medical tent. I prayed to Allah for 2 years and heard nothing. But when I prayed to Jesus, when I cried out his name, he answered. Not with words. With a miracle. He sent a lion. A wild, dangerous predator. And he commanded it to protect me. Just like he did for Daniel in the Bible. How do we know you're telling the truth? Someone shouted. Maybe you're lying. Maybe you hallucinated. Ask her, I pointed to Sarah, standing at the edge of the crowd. She saw it. Sarah stepped forward. I saw it, she confirmed. I've been in Africa for 15 years. I've seen lions in the wild hundreds of times. They are predators. They don't protect humans. They don't lead them to safety. They don't bow. But I watched one do all of that today. I can't explain it scientifically. But I saw it. A young woman pushed through the crowd. Tears streaming down her face. I want what you have, she said. I want to know this Jesus who sends lions. How? How do I know him? And that's when it hit me. This miracle wasn't just for me. It was for them. For everyone who would hear this story and realize, God is real. Jesus is alive. And he's still doing the impossible. You pray, I told her. Just talk to him. Tell him you need him. Tell him you're tired of being alone. Ask him to save you. And he will. I promise you, he will. She knelt right there in the sand. Jesus, she said out loud. I don't know if you're real. But if you sent a lion to save this man, then I want to know you. Save me. Please. 17 people prayed that day. 17 Muslims, worn down by war and suffering, accepted Jesus because they heard about a lion that obeyed God. That night, I lay in the medical tent and stared at the ceiling. My body was recovering. Slowly. But my soul was on fire. Jesus, I whispered. I understand now. You didn't just save my life. You saved me so I could tell others about you. So I could be a witness. A living testimony that you're still doing miracles. And in my spirit, I heard, this is just the beginning, Yusuf. Watch what I'm going to do through you. I didn't know what that meant. Not yet. But I would soon. The camp I'd stumbled into was called Zamzam, an IDP settlement about 80 kilometers north of Al-Fashir. It housed about 5,000 displaced people. Mostly Zaghawa tribe. A mix of Muslims and Christians, all fleeing the same violence that had destroyed my life. Within 48 hours, my story had spread through every tent. The Muslim man protected by a lion. The refugee who walked 5 days through the Sahara and survived. The miracle. Some believed immediately. Others were skeptical. And a few were hostile. On my third day at Zamzam, a group of men came to the medical tent. 5 of them. Traditional jalabiya robes. Prayer caps. Beards. Religious men. Leaders in the Muslim community. The eldest, maybe 60 years old, gray beard, stern face, spoke first. Your name is Yusuf? Yes, I said. I was sitting up now, for still in my arm but feeling stronger. You're spreading lies about Islam, he said. Not shouting. Calm. Cold. You're telling people that Jesus sent a lion to save you. That Jesus is greater than Allah. I'm not lying, I said quietly. I'm telling what happened to me. You hallucinated, he said. You were dying. Dehydrated. Your mind created what you wanted to see. The UN worker saw it too, I said. Sarah. She's been in Africa for 15 years. She knows lions. She saw what happened. Then she's lying to protect you, another man said. Or maybe Shaitan, the devil, sent that lion to deceive you. To lead you away from Islam. I took a breath. Prayed silently. Jesus, give me words. Brother, I said, looking at the elder. I was Muslim for 21 years. I prayed Salah 5 times a day. I fasted. I honored my parents. I followed the pillars of Islam. And for 2 years in refugee camps, I begged Allah to help me. To save me. To show me He was real. And, the elder asked. Silence. Nothing but silence. I leaned forward. But when I prayed to Jesus, when I cried out His name in the desert, dying, with Janjaweed hunting me, He answered. Within seconds. He sent a lion. Not a vision. Not a dream. A real lion that Sarah saw. That protected me for 3 days. That led me to water. That brought me here. You're an apostate, one of the younger men spat. The punishment for apostasy is death. Then kill me, I said. I don't know where the courage came from, maybe the Holy Spirit, maybe the fact that I'd already faced death multiple times. But it won't change what happened. It won't change the truth. Jesus is alive. He's real. And He loves us so much that He died for us and rose again. The elder studied me for a long time. Then he said, if your Jesus is so powerful, why does He let His followers suffer? Why are Christians being slaughtered by ISIS? By Boko Haram? By the Janjaweed? If He's God, why doesn't He stop it? He doesn't cause suffering, I said. Evil men cause suffering. But Jesus walks through it with us. He doesn't promise to remove the fire, He promises to walk through the fire with us. Like He did with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Bible stories, the man dismissed. Then explain the lion, I said. Explain how I survived 5 days in the Sahara. Explain how Sarah, a woman who doesn't even believe in God, saw a wild lion bow before it left me. Explain that scientifically. Silence. The elder turned to leave, then stopped. You've caused fitnet division in this camp, he said. Stay away from our people. They left. But I noticed one of them, the youngest, maybe 25 years old, looked back at me before following the others. Curiosity in his eyes. Questions. That night, he came back. Alone. His name was Abdul. He knocked softly on the medical tent post and slipped inside, looking around nervously like he was doing something illegal. I need to hear it again, he said without preamble. The story. All of it. I need to know if it's true. So I told him. Everything. My village burning. My father's murder. 2 years at Al-Noor camp praying to Allah and hearing nothing. The secret Christian meetings. My forbidden prayer to Jesus. Commander Hamid's death list. Running into the desert. Collapsing. The Janjaweed finding me. The sword about to fall. And the lion. I told him about the roar. About Rashid dropping his sword and running. About the lion lying beside me. About following it to water. About walking for 3 days with my hand in its mane. About it bowing before it left. Abdul listened without interrupting. And when I finished, there were tears running down his face. I've been praying, he whispered. For 3 years. Since the war started. Since I watched my wife and daughter burned alive by the Janjaweed. I've prayed 5 times a day. I've fasted. I've read Quran until my eyes bled. And Allah has been silent. He looked up at me. But you prayed to Jesus once and he sent a lion? Yes, I said. Because Jesus isn't distant. He's not waiting for us to be good enough or pray hard enough. He came down to us. He became human. He knows suffering. He died on a cross. And he did it because he loves us. Not because we deserve it. Because of grace. I want that, Abdul said. I want to know a God who answers. Who cares? Who doesn't just watch from heaven but actually acts? Then pray with me, I said. Right now. Ask Jesus to save you. We knelt together on the dirt floor of the medical tent. And Abdul prayed. Jesus, he said, voice shaking. I don't know if you're real. I don't know if you'll hear me. But if you sent a lion to save Yusuf, if you loved him enough to do that, maybe you love me too? I'm so tired. I'm so broken. Allah never answered. But they say you answer. So I'm asking, save me. Please. Heal me. Make me yours. The presence of God filled that tent. I can't explain it better than that. It was thick. Warm. Peaceful. Like the air itself was charged with something holy. Abdul gasped. I feel something. I feel, he put his hand over his heart. Something's happening. Something's changing. That's the Holy Spirit, I said. He's coming to live inside you. You're not alone anymore, brother. You'll never be alone again. Abdul stayed for 2 hours. We talked about Jesus. About grace. About what it means to follow him. And when he left, he was different. His face glowed. His shoulders were straighter. The weight of grief had lifted. I have to tell my family, he said at the tent entrance. Be careful, I warned. Your family might not understand. Might not accept it. I know, he said. But I can't not tell them. Jesus saved me. How can I keep that secret? 3 days later, Abdul brought his brother. Then his cousin. Then a friend. One by one, people started coming to the medical tent, always after dark, always nervous, always desperate. Tell us about the lion. So I did. Over and over. And every time I told it, people's faces changed. Hope crept in. Faith sparked. Within 2 weeks, 27 people had prayed to accept Jesus. 27 Muslims who'd heard about a lion that obeyed God and decided, if Jesus can do that, then I want to know him. Sarah, the UN worker, watched all of this with fascination. She'd pull me aside during the day and ask questions. I don't understand, she said one afternoon. I'm a scientist. I'm trained to look at evidence, data, facts. But I saw that lion. I saw it protect you. I saw it BOW. How do I explain that? You can't, I said. Not scientifically. But you can accept it. You can admit that there are things beyond science. Beyond human understanding. Things that require faith. I don't have faith, she said. You saw a miracle, I countered. That's evidence. The question is, what will you do with that evidence? She didn't answer. Not then. But I saw her thinking. Wrestling. 2 weeks later, she found me at the water distribution line. I prayed, she said abruptly. Last night. I prayed to Jesus. I said, if you're real, if you sent that lion, then I want to know you. And Yusuf. I felt peace. For the first time in 15 years of seeing suffering and death and horror, I felt peace. I hugged her. Right there in front of everyone. A Muslim convert and a Norwegian aid worker, both saved by the same Jesus, both witnesses to the same miracle. But not everyone was happy. The Muslim elders became hostile. They started spreading rumors, Yusuf is a CIA agent sent to destroy Islam. He's working for Christian missionaries. The lion was trained. It was all staged. On my 4th week at Zamzam, they confronted me publicly. About 200 people gathered in the camp's central area, Muslims, Christians, curious observers. You are leading people ASTROI, the elder shouted, pointing at me. You are destroying families. Husbands converting, wives refusing. Brothers divided. This is your fault. I'm not forcing anyone to convert, I said calmly. I'm just telling what happened to me. People make their own choices. You're lying about the lion. Then ask the witnesses, I said. Sarah saw it. The Janjaweed fighters who fled from it saw it. Rashid, Commander Hamid's fighter, saw it. Are all of us lying? The Janjaweed would never admit they ran from a lion. Then go ask them, I challenged. Rashid is known. He operates in this region. Go find him. Ask him what happened in the desert. Ask him why he didn't kill me. The elder hesitated. He hadn't expected that. From the crowd, someone shouted, I know Rashid's cousin. He lives 3 settlements over. I'll ask him. And he did. 2 days later, that man returned with news. I spoke to Rashid's cousin, he announced to a gathered crowd. He said Rashid came back from the desert 3 weeks ago. Changed. Terrified. Quit Commander Hamid's militia. He told his family, I saw something in the desert. Something impossible. A lion protecting a Christian. The Christian's God is real. I will not fight against him anymore. The crowd erupted. Some shouted in anger. Others in amazement. The Muslim elders tried to dismiss it. But the damage was done. The evidence was piling up. Too many witnesses. Too many conversions. Too many changed lives. That night, Abdul came to see me. They're planning something, he said quietly. The elders. They've contacted the Sudanese government. They're going to have you arrested. Taken away. Maybe killed. I know, I said. I've been praying about it. I think Jesus is telling me to leave. Where will you go? I don't know. But the same Jesus who sent a lion will show me the way. 3 days later, a UN convoy was heading south to deliver supplies. Sarah arranged for me to go with them. I'm breaking about 10 protocols doing this, she said. But I don't care. You need to get out of Sudan. Out of this region. Your story is too dangerous. My story is the truth, I said. I know. That's why it's dangerous. The night before I left, I held one final gathering. About 60 people came, the ones who'd converted, the ones who were curious, even some who still doubted. I don't know where I'm going, I told them. But I know who is leading me. The same Jesus who sent a lion to save me will guide my steps. And he'll guide yours too. Don't be afraid. Don't let fear silence you. Tell your story. Tell the world what Jesus did. Because this, I gestured to all of us, this is what the gospel looks like. Muslims and Christians, Arabs and Africans, rich and poor, all united in Jesus. All saved by grace. All witnesses to his power. I prayed over them. We sang a hymn. And we cried together. The next morning, I climbed into the back of a UN truck. Sarah hugged me one more time. You changed my life, she said. Jesus changed your life, I corrected. I just told you about him. As the truck pulled away, I looked back at Zamzam camp. At the white tents. At the people waving. At the place where 27 Muslims had become Christians because of a lion that obeyed God. And I knew this was just the beginning. Jesus had saved me. Healed me. Used me. And now, he was sending me out to tell the world, miracles are real. Jesus is alive. And he's still moving. I'm sitting in a small room right now as I record this testimony. 4 concrete walls. 1 window. A thin mattress on the floor. It's not much. But it's mine. And more importantly, I'm alive. It's been 8 months since the lion. 8 months since Jesus sent a wild predator to save my life in the Sahara. 8 months since everything changed. Let me tell you where I am now. And then let me tell you why your life is about to change too. The UN convoy took me south through Sudan, then across the border into South Sudan, then eventually to a refugee processing center in Kenya. I spent 3 months there, interviews, paperwork, medical exams, background checks. The whole time, I told my story. To case workers. To other refugees. To aid organizations. To anyone who would listen. A lion protected you for 3 days, they'd ask, skeptical. Yes, I'd say. And I have witnesses. UN workers. Former Janjaweed fighters. 27 Muslims who converted because they heard about it. This isn't a story. This is testimony. Some believed. Some didn't. But the ones who believed? They were changed. I'm in Nairobi now. Living in a small room provided by a Christian refugee assistance organization. I share it with 2 other believers, one from Somalia, one from Eritrea. Both have their own impossible survival stories. Both encountered Jesus in supernatural ways. We pray together every morning. We study the Bible together every night. And during the day? We go out into the Kenyan refugee communities and tell our stories. Because here's what I've learned in these 8 months, my story isn't just my story. It's his story. It's Jesus proving, once again, that he's alive. That he's active. That he's still performing miracles. That the same God who parted the Red Sea and shut the mouths of lions for Daniel is still working today. And people are hungry for it. Last week, I spoke at a refugee church, about 200 people crammed into a corrugated metal building with no air conditioning. I told them about the lion. About collapsing in the desert. About the Janjaweed fighter's sword whistling toward my neck. About the roar that stopped everything. By the time I finished, half the room was crying. A Somali woman stood up. I was Al-Shabaab, she said. I participated in attacks. I helped plan bombings. I killed Christians. She could barely get the words out through her sobs. But last year, Jesus appeared to me in a dream. He said, "You are killing my children. But I still love you. Come home." I didn't understand it. How could he love someone like me? She looked at me. But your story, the lion, it makes sense now. If Jesus can send a lion to protect you, he can send a dream to save me. If he can forgive a refugee, he can forgive a terrorist. She walked to the front. Fell on her knees. Jesus, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Forgive me. Save me. Make me yours. 17 people gave their lives to Jesus that night. 17 refugees from different countries, different backgrounds, different traumas, all united by one truth: Jesus saves. But it's not easy. Living as a Christian refugee is dangerous. Last month, my Somali roommate, his name is Abdi, was attacked by Al-Shabaab sympathizers who found out he'd converted from Islam. They beat him so badly he couldn't walk for a week. Broken ribs. Fractured jaw. Internal bleeding. I sat beside his bed in the hospital and prayed. Jesus, you sent a lion to save me. Can you heal Abdi? Please? Within 3 days, Abdi was walking. The doctors couldn't explain it. His injuries were severe, they said. This kind of recovery normally takes months. But Abdi knew. Jesus healed me, he said. Just like he protected you. He's faithful. Here's what my life looks like now. I wake up at 5 a.m. I pray. I read the Bible. I have my own complete copy now, not just torn pages. I've read through the entire New Testament twice. Every time I read about Jesus healing the sick, feeding the multitudes, calming storms, raising the dead, I think, that's the same Jesus who sent me a lion. He hasn't changed. He's still doing the impossible. At 7 a.m., we have breakfast. Usually just tea and bread. Sometimes ugali if we have maize flour. The Christian organization provides basic food rations, but we're always one step away from hunger. Always dependent on donations. Always trusting Jesus to provide. And he does. Every single time. 2 weeks ago, we ran out of food completely. No money. No rations. Nothing. We prayed. Jesus, you fed 5,000 people with 5 loaves and 2 fish. Can you feed 3 refugees in Nairobi? We trust you. That afternoon, a Kenyan pastor knocked on our door. I don't know why, he said, but I felt God telling me to bring you food. He handed us bags of rice, beans, vegetables, even some chicken. Enough for 2 weeks. How did you know we needed food? I asked. He smiled. I didn't. God knew. During the day, I work odd jobs when I can find them. Construction. Cleaning. Loading trucks. Anything to earn a few shillings. It's hard work. My body still hasn't fully recovered from the desert. I get dehydrated easily, I struggle with heat exhaustion, my joints ache. But I thank God for every day I'm alive. Every day I can work. And every evening, I tell my story. Sometimes it's at a church. Sometimes it's in someone's home. Sometimes it's just sitting in a refugee camp square, talking to whoever will listen. I tell them about the lion. About Jesus. About the 27 Muslims who converted. About Rashid the Janjaweed fighter who quit the militia because he saw God's power. And people respond. Every time. Some convert immediately. Some ask questions. Some are angry. But no one walks away unchanged. Because when you hear about a wild lion obeying God's command to protect a refugee, you have to make a choice. Either it's true, which means Jesus is real and active and powerful, or it's a lie. There's no middle ground. I've also started connecting with the people from Zamzam camp. Abdul sends messages through aid workers. He tells me the Christian community is growing. That despite persecution, despite threats, despite some families being torn apart, people are still coming to Jesus. The Muslim elders are furious, Abdul wrote in his last message. But they can't stop it. Because too many people saw the evidence. Too many witnesses. Too many changed lives. The gospel is spreading, brother. Like wildfire. Sarah, the UN worker, was transferred to Ethiopia. But she writes to me regularly. She's joined a church in Addis Ababa. She's studying the Bible. She's telling other aid workers about what she witnessed. You changed the trajectory of my entire life, she wrote. For 15 years, I saw suffering and death and meaninglessness. I was becoming bitter. Cynical. Depressed. But watching that lion bow before it left you, witnessing that impossible moment, it broke something in me. It broke my unbelief. And Jesus rushed in. Even Rashid, the Janjaweed fighter who tried to kill me, found Jesus. I heard through a network of contacts that he's left Sudan. He's in a refugee camp in Chad, working with a Christian organization, telling his own testimony. I was a murderer. I killed Christians for sport. But in the desert, I saw a lion protecting one of them. And I knew their God is real. My AK-47 was useless against him. My sword was nothing. So I dropped my weapons. And I picked up a Bible. And Jesus saved me, even me, a killer. Stories like that keep me going. Keep me pressing forward. Because I realize now, the lion wasn't just for me. It was for everyone who would hear about it. It was evidence. Proof. A modern-day miracle that points to the same Jesus who performed miracles 2,000 years ago. But let me be honest with you. It's not always easy. There are days when I'm tired. Days when the trauma catches up with me. Days when I wake up screaming from nightmares about my father being shot. About my village burning. About the sword whistling toward my neck. On those days, I pray. Jesus, I'm struggling. I'm weak. I'm afraid. Help me. And he does. Sometimes through scripture. Sometimes through a friend. Sometimes through a memory, the feeling of that lion's mane under my hand, the sound of its protective roar, the knowledge that God sent it specifically for me. If Jesus loved me enough to command a wild predator to guard me, he loves me enough to carry me through PTSD. Through grief. Through trauma. And he loves you the same way. Which brings me to why I'm telling you this story. You. Yes, you, the person watching this or reading this or hearing this right now. Maybe you're Muslim. Maybe you've been praying to Allah your whole life and hearing nothing but silence. Maybe you're wondering, is there a God who actually answers? Let me tell you, yes. His name is Jesus. And he's waiting for you to call out to him. Maybe you're Christian but you've stopped believing in miracles. You think miracles ended with the Bible. You think God doesn't move like that anymore. Let me tell you, you're wrong. I'm proof you're wrong. The lion is proof. The 27 Muslims who converted are proof. Rashid, the former Janjaweed fighter, is proof. Sarah, the UN worker, is proof. We are living testimonies that Jesus is still performing miracles. Maybe you're an atheist. Maybe you think this is all made up. Fairy tales. Wishful thinking. Let me tell you, I have witnesses. People who don't benefit from lying. UN workers with careers and reputations. Former militants who lost everything by admitting what they saw. If this was fake, why would a Janjaweed fighter quit his militia and flee his country? Why would a scientist like Sarah abandon her naturalistic worldview? Why would 27 Muslims risk death by converting? The evidence is overwhelming. You just have to be willing to look at it. Maybe you're in a desperate situation right now. Maybe you're facing something impossible. Maybe you're sick. Broke. Alone. Suicidal. Maybe you've prayed to every god you know and heard nothing. Let me tell you, try Jesus. Just once. Just cry out to him. Jesus, if you're real, I need you now. That's all I said in the desert. That's all. And he sent a lion. What will he send for you? Here's how you pray. It's simple. No fancy words needed. Just honesty. Jesus, I don't know if you're real. But I want to know. I'm tired. I'm broken. I'm lost. If you died for me, if you rose from the dead, if you love me, then save me. Come into my life. Forgive my sins. Make me yours. I surrender. I'm yours. That's it. That's all you need to say. And if you prayed that right now, just now, then you just became a miracle. You just passed from death to life. From darkness to light. From lost to found. Welcome to the family, brother. Welcome to the family, sister. Jesus just saved you. The same Jesus who commanded a lion to protect me just saved your soul. And nothing in heaven or earth or hell can take that away from you. Now let me tell you what happens next. Find other believers. Find a church. Read the Bible, start with the Gospel of John. Pray. Talk to Jesus every day like he's your friend, because he is. And when you face trials, and you will face trials, remember, Jesus doesn't promise to remove the fire. He promises to walk through it with you. Just like he walked through the desert with me. I don't know what my future holds. I'm still a refugee. Still stateless. Still living day to day. But I'm alive. I'm free. I'm his. And every day, I wake up and thank him for that lion. For that impossible, biblical, supernatural miracle that proved he's real. Because if God can command a 450-pound predator to protect a Muslim refugee in the Sahara Desert, if he can turn a Janjaweed fighter into a Christian evangelist, if he can convert a hardened UN scientist through a single moment of witnessing the impossible, if he can use a nobody like me to lead 27 Muslims to salvation, then he can handle your problems, your fears, your impossibilities. Nothing is too hard for him. Nothing. So I'm asking you right now, believe. Stop doubting. Stop running. Stop hiding. Jesus is alive. He's real. He's powerful. And he loves you more than you can possibly imagine. He proved it to me with a lion. How will he prove it to you? Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Don't let fear stop you. Call on Jesus. Now. Right now. Because the same God who saved Daniel from lions. The same God who saved Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego from fire. The same God who parted the Red Sea. The same God who raised Jesus from the dead. That God, my God, is waiting to save you. All you have to do is ask. Jesus, I'm asking you right now, save everyone who hears this testimony. Everyone who's watched this video or read these words. Break through their doubt. Shatter their unbelief. Prove to them that you're real. Do for them what you did for me. Send them a miracle. Send them a sign. Draw them to yourself with cords of love. Save them, Jesus. Save them all. In your powerful name, amen. If you prayed that prayer, if you accepted Jesus today, please tell someone. Find a church. Message me if you can. Let other believers know so they can help you, support you, disciple you. You're not alone anymore. You'll never be alone again. Because the same Jesus who sent a lion to guard me in the Sahara is the same Jesus who just saved your soul. And he will never leave you. He will never forsake you. He is faithful. Now and forever. Amen.